Welcome to the Modise Network. Public transport, especially commuter trains, has been a challenge for the communities of the Cape Flats in the Western Cape for some time. The news earlier this week that money meant for PRASA locomotives was diverted to personal use by private individuals only served to underscore the extent to which corruption has undermined the everyday services that South Africans depend on. A movement called #UniteBehind was established by the commuters, led by activist Zackie Achmat, who will be joining us to discuss the various issues affecting commuters in the Western Cape. And later we'll be joined by Tebogo Kas, who will share his perspectives on the performance of the state-owned entities and the bailouts they receive. But first, Zackie Achmat. I'm now joined by Zackie Achmat, who is the leader and convener of #UniteBehind. I'm inviting you to join the network with your comments using the hashtag for the Modise Network. And Mr. Zackie Achmat, thank you very much for joining us on the show. I want your reaction to the news earlier this week that there is more than 500 million rands that was paid into a private trust account for the personal benefit of certain individuals. And this is money that was meant to buy locomotives. I'm sure you've seen that report. What is your reaction?
The PRASA's had state capture problems that has led to over 24 billion rand being stolen from the kitty. This relates to one of those cases called Swifambo. And there's a lot more probably that will be revealed. What happened here is a German company bribed local officials who fronted for this German company called Vossloh España. It's owned both in Germany and in Spain. Now it's Swiss-owned. And they paid a chappie called Mackenzie Mabunda about 70 million rand to help broker this deal. Another chappie called Oswald Mashaba then got the deal with an off-the-shelf company. This is a company with no tax clearance, no bank accounts before that, and so on. They got a deal of up to 3.5 billion rand, of which 800 million was stolen, basically. So you've so far heard of about, 500 million? But you will hear again of another 300 million. And some of that money was paid into the accounts not only of Mashaba and Mabunda, but also people like Sfisa Buthelezi, who is currently the chair of the Appropriations Committee at Parliament. It's been paid into the Jacob Zuma Trust, a very small amount. He got small change in his trust. But similarly, an ANC funder known as Maria Gomez, her company got money. And all this is in the public domain largely, but for the first time now, the money has been tracked in court through the liquidators. So the theft has a direct impact on the poorest people in our country. And if you had to ask which are the most important SOEs, and we'll probably discuss that later, but Eskom for the whole economy, and then you have something like PRASA, which deals with poor working class people, whether they're in Mabopane, whether they're in eThekwini, whether they're in Cape Town, or Ekurhuleni, these Tembisa and so on. So the poorest people are suffering because of state capture.
Now, tell me, what exactly is going on at PRASA? I mean, you've taken PRASA to court on numerous occasions, and there are several issues regarding security, regarding the number of trains that are available on a daily basis, especially to the Cape Flats. There's the issue of access. There's also governance. There's now an administrator who's been put in charge, and PRASA has not been able to pay for the lights, and even Eskom threatened to switch off the lights, or to switch off the lines, rather. Just give me a picture of what you're dealing with here.
Let's start with the availability of train sets. Now, a train set ordinarily has 12 coaches. In 1996, we had 104 coaches in train sets in Cape Town, 104 train sets. Since then, the population has doubled, and we're down to 37 train sets with coaches of about 6 coaches at a time. And now, on top of that, we've heard We all know about the sabotage, the burning of trains on a large scale, which constitutes sabotage. But for instance, you wouldn't know this fact, but in the 2018-2019 year alone, 500 coaches were stolen. The minister, then Minister Bladen Nzimande, told Parliament that 500 coaches were stolen. Now, you just imagine, that can't be done without an internal network of criminally corrupt people, an organized crime unit running within PRASA among its staff. So that's the difficulty, that, for instance, any management was clean, any governance body that is clean, any minister who is clean, that's the difficulty that they're going to have to face. Similarly, last year we had more than 500 deaths on the rail line. Now this includes everything from murder to someone crossing a railway line in order to catch a train because they're late for work and the trains have been delayed or whatever, and getting knocked down by a train. So 500 deaths on a rail line is a phenomenal statistic. If you just simply take Britain, there's been one death in the last 10 years in which someone committed suicide on the rail line. We're not talking about suicide. So that's some of the stuff. Now, Unite Behind has gone to court in support of PRASA, and we've gone to court against PRASA. Where we've gone to court in support of PRASA has been in cases like Siangena, which is another 4.5 billion rand stolen, or more than 2 billion rand in 2.5 billion rand in an unlawful contract, but the total value of the contract is 4.5 billion rand. We went into that case supporting PRASA. Similarly, there was a case called Siyaya, in which Makenza Mabunda was again involved, and in that case, we also supported PRASA. So when necessary, we support the organization. There have been two difficulties most recently. The first is, for the last 2 years, we tried to get security contracts out of PRASA. They were partially dumped on us instead of being given to our lawyer by the administrator's representatives in our office, instead of it going to our lawyers, after we had let them know that there's a contempt of court application coming. But again, those security contracts date from 2011, and it's a 1-year extension, so it's totally incomplete. PRASA in Cape Town has between 1,400 and 1,700 security guards, but they only gave us the training records for 63. Of those 63, only 2 had serial registrations on the record that they gave us. Now, you tell me, you have security guards, they're not properly trained, they're not firearm competent, they don't have, at the moment, the security companies are suing PRASA, we're in the case, for 25 million rand unpaid monies. Now you imagine you're a security guard earning what, 4,500, 6,000 maybe if you're lucky, rand a month, and you have to spend a lot of money on transport, your trains fail you, and at the same time, you're not getting paid. These are the difficulties that any administration would face. When we look at the question of governance of PRASA, this is the critical thing. Over a 10-year period, PRASA has had about 8 boards. 8 boards. Some of them are recycling the same people, others new people, and so on. But out of those 8 boards, only 1 tried to start cleaning the rot, and that was the board under Popo Molefe, which was half corrupt and other half not corrupt. But most recently, PRASA's only had interim boards, and there hasn't been a permanent board appointed. Now, you cannot run something without permanent governance, especially something as complex as PRASA. And what has happened is the minister has appointed an administrator. The other day he said in Parliament that it's actually not an administrator, it's an acting CEO. Let's accept that Mr. Bongisizwe Mpondo might be one of the greatest people ever appointed. Let's accept that as a possible fact. The real fact is this, that he must have about 100 crises coming at him from all sides. But his duty is both as CEO and as accounting authority as the board. And he reports directly to the minister, who also has the Road Accident Fund, SANRAL, and every other thing that you can imagine to take care of. And our current minister is not known for paying attention to detail. So the administrator was appointed without anything in law related to PRASA, the Legal Succession Act or the PFMA.
I want to also look at the regulatory aspects of PRASA, what it's supposed to do, how it's supposed to operate, because obviously the situation in the Western Cape is untenable, but we will pick up the conversation in a moment. Stay with us.